Florida Congressman Michael Waltz, member of the House Armed Services Committee and a highly decorated former Green Beret with multiple combat tours in Afghanistan, the Middle East, and Africa. Great to have you in focus today. You know, as I hear Special Forces experts then and now talk about what was coming, what part of the predictions, of the warnings from a year ago have now come to fruition? What pops?
Well, look at where we are a year later, Harris. Girls in Afghanistan can't be educated. Women can't leave their home, much less hold a job. The entire country is in a massive famine with historic food insecurity. Our allies are being hunted down by the Taliban's intelligence directorate. I had the relative of one of my interpreters literally strung up behind a truck and drug around his village to send a message. There's a small resistance to the Taliban regime, but the State Department, Biden's State Department, has denounced them. And now here we have al-Qaeda senior leadership living openly in Kabul once again. So, we could spend the next hour talking about what the problems are. And while I am thrilled to see Zawahiri dead, absolutely thrilled, we have to remember Obama yanked us out of Iraq without leaving really any kind of plan. And a few years later, we had the rise of ISIS, despite having a lot more troops and drones and assets around Iraq than we do around Afghanistan here. So I've been ringing the alarm bells. The intelligence community is telling us that al-Qaeda and ISIS are growing and fully intend to attack us again. And we have very little in the region to deal with it. The one strike, I think, was a success story, but to stop the rise of those groups again under a Taliban umbrella is something that has me really concerned. And finally, Harris, when we get the Congress back in November, when Republicans take over, we have to have accountability. We have to have accountability for all of these decisions for the veterans groups, so many of them that have exhausted themselves, and most of all, for the 13 Gold Star families that shouldn't be without their loved ones right now. We have to get behind how these decisions were made, what was proposed and advised into the White House, into Biden, and what did he ignore? Because despite all of this, he's still saying this was a massive success story.
Well, look, we're perched right now to see if there is going to be another grab of land and lives, and that would be China with Taiwan. We've already seen one, the only president in the 21st century not to have Russia invade its neighbors was President Trump. So we've seen another invasion by Russia into a neighbor under President Biden. So his decisions and what he does under pressure globally affect every American. Always has, but particularly if he can't make up his mind or doesn't listen to the generals. Go ahead, quick thought, and then I'm going to move to China.
Yeah, no, strength from the commander-in-chief matters. And we saw with the debacle that was Afghanistan, no coincidence, then the invasion, largest land invasion in Europe since World War II, and deterrence failed in the case of Ukraine. There's been a strong response since, but it failed. And on President Trump, he was the first to give the Ukrainians lethal weapons, and he led the shift on China. And we have to continue those policies, but we're not.
All right, let's go there. And I do want to get to the Ukraine part about it. You brought up former President Trump. China is ignoring calls to calm tensions following the speaker's visit to Taiwan, Nancy Pelosi. Today, it announced it will continue military exercises around that island nation that were supposed to end yesterday. This comes after a weekend of cat and mouse games. Probably doesn't feel that innocent, though, if you're Taiwan, between Chinese and Taiwanese warships. Former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, with this.
The way you prevent wars is you don't shy away from having the backs of your allies, and you let your enemies know what we expect of them. These temper tantrums are childish, and they're dangerous, and they shouldn't be doing them. And the last thing we need to do is run from that.
Yeah, imagine what happens if they make a big mistake. Then what do we do? A Fox News op-ed says China's Xi is a genuine threat to Taiwan and Team Biden needs to wake up. Congressman.
Well, I think the entire country needs to wake up to what's going on. We are drunk as a country on Chinese money, from Hollywood to Wall Street to the sports industry. and certainly in our politics, the biggest example of what the Chinese call elite capture is obviously Hunter Biden. But here's why Taiwan matters to every American. Today, it can be blockading shipping and commercial aircraft going into Taiwan. Tomorrow, it can be oil into Japan, and then the next move by Chairman Xi could be pharmaceuticals into the United States. We just saw the Senate pass billions to go into green energy. Where's all that going, Harris? It's going into Chinese-made solar panels, Chinese-made wind turbines, Chinese-owned lithium. We have to. This takes an all of society, all of government approach, and we have to bring those supply chains back home. The Chinese theory of victory, as espoused by Sun Tzu, is to force your enemy to capitulate without ever firing a shot. What the Chinese are planning on is us bankrupting ourselves and then being able to choke off the critical supply chains to our economy before we ever talk about tanks, planes, and ships in the Taiwan Strait. And this administration's playing right into their hands.
I was just going to say we're doing exactly what we need to do to help them.
Yeah, and you got it.
And they're killing our young people, our people, with fentanyl that they produce more than anybody else in the world, and it's coming across our southern border, and we just usher it right on in. I mean, it's like there's a playbook, but we American citizens can't get our hands on the playbook that somebody else is not just reading and playing from, but they're writing new chapters every day.
Not to mention locking down the economy from a virus they released, and the last 3 were viruses that they released. So you're right, we're playing right into their hands, and this administration's got to wake up. I don't know. This is the greatest adversary we've ever faced, Harris. And on this track, the track that this administration has us on, I think whether we prevail or not prevail is really in doubt.
Yep. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the same thing to me as we were going into the weekend, that China is what keeps him up at night. I just have to ask the question why. It's a rhetorical question right now because the president won't answer it. But I want to know, why are we treating China this way? Is there something that we're missing? Can he tell us? Congressman Michael Waltz, I have to let you go, but I'll bring you back and we'll be in focus. Thank you.
Will do. Thanks.